Hello, this is Willie Logan at the former Mare Island Naval Shipyard in California. Behind me is the sail of the USS Mariano Vjo, which is a ballistic missile nuclear submarine that was built and launched at this shipyard. In an earlier video, I talked about the Polaris missile, which was the first ballistic nuclear missile that was designed and deployed to be launched from submarines during the Cold War. In that video, I said that I might make another video about the submarines themselves, and that's this video. So here is my video about the ballistic missile submarines of the Cold War. USS Mariano Vjo was one of 41 submarines built to launch Polaris missiles in the late 1950s and the 1960s. These 41 submarines belonged to 5 different classes, and all of them shared the capability of operating submerged for long periods and firing their missiles with reasonable accuracy without coming up to the surface. In the 1950s, these capabilities were recent developments, and they had all come about in the decade and a half after the end of World War II. During World War II, submarines were effectively surface vessels that could operate underwater for relatively short periods. When submerged, these subs were powered by electric motors, which ran from large storage batteries. The storage batteries, in turn, could only be recharged when the sub was at the surface, because the diesel generators that charged them needed oxygen from the atmosphere to run. The practical limit of submerged operation for most conventional submarines was about 30 hours. After the war, nuclear propulsion offered the prospect of practically unlimited underwater operation for submarines. The Navy had played only a minor role in the Manhattan Project, but after the war, it led the way in the development of nuclear power. The Naval Reactor Power Project was a collaboration between the U.S. Navy and the Civilian Atomic Energy Commission. Under the overall leadership of Captain, later Rear Admiral, Hyman G. Rickover. The project explored 2 different types of reactors for naval nuclear propulsion, which were developed by separate civilian contractors in cooperation with government labs. Westinghouse and Bettis Lab developed a water-cooled reactor. The technology was first tested in a land-based reactor, Mark I, built at the National Reactor Testing Station in Arco, Idaho. Mark I first went critical on March 30, 1953. According to the book Nuclear Navy, which was a major source for this video, the Mark I was the world's first fully engineered nuclear reactor capable of producing practical amounts of energy on a sustained and reliable basis. Mark I, later redesignated S1W, performed a series of tests, including a 100-hour run, which simulated a trip across the North Atlantic. At the end of every 4-hour shift during the run, the position of the ship was updated on a chart of the North Atlantic. The experiment concluded when the ship reached Ireland. Mark I was followed by Mark II, or S2W, which was installed in the USS Nautilus, the world's first nuclear submarine. General Electric and Knowles Atomic Power Laboratory developed a sodium-cooled reactor. This was more cutting-edge technology at this point, and Rickover was never fully satisfied with it. A land-based prototype reactor, Mark A, ran successfully, as did a ship-based reactor, Mark B, which was installed in the Navy's second nuclear submarine, USS Seawolf. But this technology was never used for any other ships, and the Mark B was ultimately removed from the Seawolf and replaced by a water-cooled reactor similar to the one in the Nautilus. With their uranium-powered reactors, nuclear submarines could stay submerged for very long periods without needing to come up for air. Their hulls were bigger than conventional submarines, because their reactors were large. Therefore, they had more space inside for crew areas and storage. The submarines also had to carry their own oxygen supplies in tanks. Scrubbers removed the carbon dioxide that crew members exhaled. The same technology was used in the first space capsules at this time. In the late 50s,
the first nuclear submarines accomplished some impressive feats, which would have been impossible in conventional subs. Nautilus sailed from Hawaii to England, crossing under the Arctic ice cap on the way. USS Skate surfaced in a gap in the ice cap and rendezvoused with a scientific station on the drifting sea ice. And most impressively of all, USS Triton, the biggest submarine of its time, circumnavigated the entire planet without once coming up to the surface. Parallel to the development of nuclear propulsion was the development of a new hull shape for the submarines of the Cold War. During World War II, submarines had been long and skinny, with a length-to-beam ratio of 11.5 to 1. They also had lots of equipment affixed to the outside, which made the vessels distinctly unstreamlined. This didn't really matter because these submarines didn't stay submerged for all that long. They also didn't move very fast underwater, about 11 knots max. But model tests after the war showed that these long, skinny submarines were unstable at higher speeds. A more hydrodynamic shape was like a teardrop, bigger at the front and tapering to a point at the rear. Even though it had a larger diameter than World War II-era subs, this shape produced less resistance and allowed for higher speeds. Nature had already figured this shape out, by the way, because whales are shaped like this too. The first submarine to use this shape was USS Albacore, an unarmed prototype built specifically for the purpose of testing the new hull shape. This hull shape would be adopted for nuclear submarines. Polaris submarines, though, used a modified form of this hull shape, with the addition of a long, straight center section where the missiles were kept in their launching tubes. Missile-carrying subs would be submerged for long periods and operate at high latitudes, which meant that they would need new navigational systems. Traditionally, navigation at sea relied on magnetic compasses and the measurement of the angle of celestial bodies to the horizon, combined with the use of an accurate chronometer. But neither of these tools would work for Polaris submarines. Magnetic compasses point toward the magnetic North Pole, not true north, and they are thus imprecise in polar regions. Celestial navigation requires taking readings from the surface, which is impossible from a submarine that is submerged for weeks or months on end. Instead, Polaris submarines used a mostly self-contained inertial guidance system, which determined where the submarine was by detecting motion. Precision navigation was important for Polaris submarines, not just because the crew needed to know where they were, but also because the missiles would need to know where they were being fired from so they could navigate toward their targets. I say that these systems were mostly self-contained because they developed errors over time and had to be recalibrated on a regular basis, such as by taking sun or star sightings through the periscope. The first Polaris submarine was USS George Washington, which deployed to the fleet in 1960. George Washington and the other 4 submarines of its class were based on the Skipjack-class fast attack submarines, with the addition of a center section for the missile launch tubes. The next 5 Polaris submarines belonged to the Ethan Allen class, operational starting in 1962. These were the first submarines designed from the start to carry missiles, beginning with the Polaris A-2. The remaining 31 Polaris submarines were bigger, belonging to the Lafayette, James Madison, and Benjamin Franklin classes. These submarines had 400 tons more displacement than the Ethan Allen class, and they were 15 feet longer. These submarines were so big that they could also carry the larger, new and improved Poseidon and Trident missiles, which were introduced in the 70s. The private shipyard Electric Boat in Groton, Connecticut, built the first 2 ships of the George Washington class, as well as the first ships of the Ethan Allen, Lafayette, and Benjamin Franklin classes. Electric Boat served as the lead shipyard of these classes, passing on the drawings it produced to the other shipyards. The other shipyards that built Polaris submarines were the private Newport News in Virginia, Portsmouth Naval Shipyard in New Hampshire, and Mare Island Naval Shipyard in California. USS Mariano Vjo was the last of 7 Polaris submarines built at Mare Island. It was named for Mariano Guadalupe Vallejo, a Californio who served in the California Territorial Legislature and was a proponent of statehood. Vallejo is also the namesake of the town where Mare Island Naval Shipyard was located. But confusingly, the name of the town is pronounced Vallejo rather than Vallejo. Don't ask. The submarine named for Vallejo belonged to the Benjamin Franklin class. Like the other submarines of its class, the Mariano Vjo displaced 8,250 tons submerged and had a length of 425 feet and a beam of 33 feet. The ship was powered by a single S5W nuclear reactor and propelled by a single screw. It carried 16 Polaris missiles, each in its own launch tube, in the center section of the ship, behind the sail and in front of the reactor compartment. The Mariano Vjo was commissioned in 1966 and remained in service until 1995. By that time, the aging Polaris subs had been replaced by the much larger Ohio class of ballistic missile submarines, which remain in service.
Thanks for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed learning about the ballistic missile submarines of the Cold War. This is Willie Logan at the former Mare Island Naval Shipyard, signing off.